After building 20 plus AI automation systems across over 10 different industries, I've noticed something surprising. Businesses that go headfirst and automate absolutely everything move slower than the ones that strategically keep humans in the loop. Today, I'll give you a dead simple framework to decide what can be fully automated and what needs human oversight. I'll show you a visual way I map opportunities and real business examples from my work. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where to draw the line and how to confidently automate without second-guessing yourself or losing control of your business. Hey, I'm Ivan. I've been shipping software for over 15 years, and lately I help businesses integrate AI into their systems and processes in order to get more clients, save money, and serve their own customers better. So here's the thing. AI is the buzzword and everybody wants to automate things, but getting things wrong can be really expensive. Too much automation can mean lost deals because of AI mistakes, damaged reputation. It can even mean legal or compliance issues. Using too little AI means having bottlenecks where everything is constrained by the human who needs to approve everything. There's risk of burnout due to repetitive and manual tasks, and you can't scale because the constraint is the amount of human labor you've got. So where do you draw the line? Well, that's what this framework is for. This is how I think about it. If we draw a chart of value versus frequency, so if I draw it like this, and let's say we've got value here, from low to high, and then frequency here from low to high as well, then we can divide this into 4 quadrants. So let's say something like this. So first we've got high frequency, low value. So that's this area here. And that's really the sweet spot for automation. Think things like monitoring job boards that I'll get into a little bit later, or follow-up emails, or things like modifying your CRM, or maybe fraud detection for very low-value purchases under, say, $5. Because the frequency is high, the value of automation is high. So we are automating something that happens over and over again, so we can save a lot of time or we can scale. And because the value is low, the risk that comes from potential mistakes is not that high either. Now, the next quadrant would be high frequency, high value. Now, this is really, really rare. I actually can't think of any real examples, but this would be things like very high value transactions that also happen very often. In cases like this, you would want to have many guardrails. You would want to have fail-safe mechanisms. You would want to have a lot of escalation points, which means that while AI might do some things, it might escalate to humans as soon as there's any doubt, basically. And in that way, those guardrails, those escalation points, the monitoring systems would all help you minimize the risk due to high-value transactions, purchases, whatever the operation is, even though they're higher frequency. The next one is high frequency and low value. So that's this one here. In this case, you have something that is valuable but doesn't happen often. In that case, AI can be assistant. It can prepare things, but it should never be fully automated. This is really one of the best cases for having human in the loop, which means you get AI to make things more efficient. You get AI to shorten the amount of time needed to do things, to complete the tasks, but then still have human oversight because the value is high. So think proposals to clients, outreach to C-level executives, or major purchasing decisions. So AI can research the proposal, it can draft the message, it can research the company, but a human should still review the final output before it actually goes out and sort of meets the customer. And because it's low frequency, you can actually review all of these. And then the final segment is low frequency, low value, and there is generally not enough ROI here to actually even implement anything. Because the value is low, the risk is low, but there's also low frequency, so the amount of investment needed to automate things here usually isn't warranted because of the low frequency. So in most cases, this part would simply be skipped. Okay, so that's the framework. Now let me show you how this plays out in the real world. The first example is from high-level recruitment agencies. So this is an agency that places C-level talent in companies. So their sales cycles are very long, maybe 6 to 12 months. The value of placements is really high because these people they're placing are all on compensation packages of 250K or more, and so their fees are also higher. And the overall number, especially in smaller markets, the overall number of potential clients is relatively low. And so relationships and relationship building is extremely, extremely important for them. So what the system does is it finds hiring signals indicating that a company might be hiring, and it uses AI intelligence to do that. So that cuts down on the time they have to spend prospecting by as much as 90%. It finds the contact information, researches the company, and it even comes up with the outreach message. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't then automatically send the message. Instead, a recruiter from the company goes through these opportunities and reviews each one of them before being sent. And so they have to press the send button every time before it actually goes out. In contrast, I built a lead generation system that is also for a recruitment agency, but a high volume one. And there's really not much to show because there's no interface for it. Everything runs fully automatically. And the reason for that is because the volume is very high. It's a numbers game. We're talking about sending thousands and thousands of emails every day, as opposed to sending maybe 10, like in the previous example. The placement fees are a lot lower, and there's very, very little risk of reputational damage because these are high volume blasts that come from essentially unknown emails. And even if the message doesn't really make all that much sense, there's really very, very little risk. Whereas in the previous example, you might be reaching out to a contact you've actually met before. And so if the AI messes something up and it sounds like it's coming from AI, that can really damage the reputation. So those are two contrasts where you've got a very, very similar system, but it works in two very different ways depending on the specific situation of the client. And a third case study is a content generation system. Now, I've built these for different clients in different industries and in different ways. So I'll walk through a few of different examples. So this is one of them. This is a LinkedIn content generation system. And LinkedIn, unlike, say, TikTok, is not mass content game. So you will not be posting 50 posts a day, for example. And so in this case, the number of posts that the person might be posting, even with a system like this, might only be, let's say, 3 or 5 per week. And with that many or that few posts, it's really not that difficult to actually review something that's going to go out. So the AI can research the posts, can prepare the posts, can generate an outline, but the person can still then spend, let's say, 5 minutes per post and approve everything, modify if necessary before it goes out. And this is also because this is reputation. Their reputation is on the line. So LinkedIn is a professional network. You don't want to be sounding like you are just posting AI slop. And I've actually had to talk some clients out of fully automating things because, let's be real, nobody really likes posting on social media, or very few people do. And so for many clients, it's a necessary chore. They know they need to do it, but they don't want to be they just don't want to have anything to do with it. And so when they hear that AI can do it automatically, they just go, okay, I don't want to even see it. Let AI do everything. The problem with that is that you will just sometimes get things that are not on brand, that do not sound like something you would write. And that can be a problem on a platform like LinkedIn. If you're posting 20 pieces of content, let's say on TikTok, then it's a very different game, because then it's about volume. Then one piece of content that is not really that good, or that has glitches, or that has something that AI hallucinated, just really doesn't matter. And, if you're just posting memes or something along those lines, it will just get buried in the rest of the good content and there's no harm done. But in most cases, I'm talking founders, professionals, you will probably want to do this in a way that AI cuts down on the amount of work you need to do. And that literally can be as much as 90-95%. So in the case of this person, this was something that was taking them several hours per week and now only takes about 10 minutes. And this is just to review a bunch of posts that the AI prepared. They select the ones they like best, they modify them very slightly, and maybe add a word or two or remove a word or two to make it more similar to what they would actually say, and then that can go out. So when I think about this, there are some things I would never automate. So things to never automate would be things like customer-facing things. customer facing, where your reputation is on the line. And I've actually got a really good example of this. I don't know if you've seen, but it was recently in the news where Deloitte was caught using AI in a very expensive report. I mean, all of their reports are expensive. And they were caught fabricating, well, AI fabricated references, even books and things like that. And the mind-bending thing for me is that they're going to offer a partial refund for this. So they're not really fully taking on responsibility for it, but that's typical of them. And so this is something that damages reputation. The second one would be compliance or legal decisions. So these are the kinds of things where, again, AI can do a lot of the work, but because the consequences can be so severe, so expensive, it shouldn't be fully relegated to AI, and it should always be reviewed by somebody who actually knows what they're doing. The third one would be high-ticket sales. So because the value is so high, you can generally spare the 10 minutes you needed to review something as opposed to just sending it out without any kind of review. Of course, high ticket is relative, so pick your own numbers, whatever is high ticket for you. And the fourth one I would say is when the cost of the error is higher than the time saved, or the cost, the value of the time saved. So basically, you are evaluating what would happen if there is an error and how much time do you have to spend to actually review this. And if the cost of that error is higher, then it probably should be reviewed. So then to make a decision, I would ask 4 questions. One would be, what's the cost of one mistake or one error? Right, so that guides how important or how risky what you're doing is. The next one would be, how many times per week does this happen? So if we're talking about a few times per week, then probably going back to that, to those 4 quadrants, probably not worth the investment. If it's happening more than a few times per week, then it's something to look into and see if that can be automated. The third would be, can you afford 5 minutes per instance for review? So the question here is, even if it can be fully automated, is it worth it? And if, depending on how many of these instances you've got, can you afford spending 5 minutes to review things before they go out? And if you can, then the answer is generally you should. And the fourth one is, does this touch money? Or relationships? So these two are categories that are high value and hard to repair. So if it can make a mistake that will cause you to lose money, that can be a bit hard to get back. Or if it breaks relationships or damages relationships, that can be very, very costly. And so those are the 4 questions I would ask before deciding whether something can be fully automated or it needs a human review. So with that, how to get started? Well, I would start with high frequency, low risk tasks. So that's the low hanging fruit, that quadrant in that matrix where the value or the risk is low enough that you can afford some mistakes. So these would be things like email categorization, email follow-ups, managing your CRM, or data entry, appointment scheduling, and so on. Then once you're a little bit more comfortable with this and can see how things are working, get a better feeling for what can and cannot be done, where the mistakes are usually made, that's the time when you can then step up and maybe start tackling some higher value items. So that's the framework. Frequency divided by value is essentially my score for prioritizing AI and automation. And if that makes sense, but you're not sure where to start in your specific business, get in touch. There is a link down in the description where you can book a free consultation call. We can have a look at your processes, your specific needs, and see if there's an opportunity to improve your business. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.